Today's sync sound is a camera shutter. In 3, 2, 1.
I think I just took a really bad picture of my face.
I was going to say, are you sure that wasn't your stapler?
No, that was my camera.
Okay, sounded a lot like your stapler. Right, welcome to That Just Might Work, the podcast about everyday items. Jesse, happy Easter.
Thank you. Happy Easter to you, too.
You know, this is, if you really think about it, it's kind of depressing. You know, we're the family's not together on Easter. Instead, we're here Easter Sunday evening researching the doorknob.
I mean, that's what I do most holidays.
Yeah. Did you do the doorknob last Easter, or was it a different everyday object?
No, it's usually the doorknob.
Okay. So you've been waiting to do this episode for a long time then.
I feel like at some point now I'm going to need to explain a connection between Easter and the doorknob, and I don't have one. So.
There's actually, we'll get to it. There's a lot of like religious connotations to the doorknob and doors and passageways and such. I think you could make a connection between Easter and Jesus and passageways, right?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Jesus a good amount, so I think recording on Easter is, that's something special.
You're right. Shout out to Jesus on this episode 16, the doorknob. Let's start with the definition. Are you ready?
Yeah.
From Wikipedia, a door handle. Doorknob redirects to door handle on Wikipedia, is an attached object or mechanism used to manually open or close a door. In the United States, a door handle generally refers to any fixed or lever-operated door latch device. The term doorknob tends to refer to round operating mechanisms. Home entry door handles are usually more sophisticated than bedroom door handles. Any disagreements there, Jesse?
No, I was going to say that's in line with what I thought.
Okay. A couple of interesting tidbits. I like to break down often different types of doorknobs. I'm not really going to do that because I think you and the listener are probably mostly familiar with doorknobs. You encounter them very often. But I'll break down. The average doorknob is 2.25 inches in diameter. The basic components are the knob rose, shank, spindle, and I already know what you're going to say, and the knob top.
I'm not going to make a joke. I'm just curious, I don't know what any of those were. When I look at a doorknob, I don't know what the rose is or the shank.
Well, I'll tell you. That's the whole point of this podcast. I just thought you were going to tell me that Knob Rose was my nickname in college.
Everyone knows it. I don't need to say it.
No. The knob top is the upper and large part that is grasped by the hand. Okay?
Okay.
Sounds a bit like an insult, you knob top. The shank is the projected stem of a knob, contains a hole or socket to receive the spindle. The knob rose is a round plate or washer that forms a knob socket and is adapted for attachment to the surface of a door.
That I think I followed that, but the terminology there is more difficult than I expected.
Yeah, the knob is attached to the spindle, a metal shaft that turns the latch of the lock. So it's not that complicated, but I can't say that I've ever heard anyone refer to the sort of mount that the knob itself mounts to. That's your knob rose right there.
Right, and you got the shank and the spindle and the knob socket.
Right. So hold on to that terminology for, I don't know, at some point in your life, maybe in a trivia game, you can pull that out.
Next Easter Sunday.
Yeah. Or they're just good insults, knob rose. Infection concerns. Door handles are instrumental in the spread of many infections. However, some materials, including brass, copper, and silver, are slowly poisonous to many germs. The exact mechanism is not known, but is commonly thought to be the oligodynamic effect. I don't think I pronounced that correctly. Perhaps by some other electrostatic effect. Brass and copper, for example, disinfect themselves of many door handle bacteria within 8 hours. Other materials that you may find on a doorknob, glass, porcelain, stainless steel, aluminum, do not have this effect. So if you're looking for, an not environmentally conscious, but a bacterial conscious door handle, you want to go with copper or brass.
Okay, yeah, I assume they do that in like hospitals and stuff.
Yes, yeah, you'll find those materials in hospitals. On to the history of the doorknob. Much awaited point in this podcast, I would imagine.
Yeah. This is a special here because I need to think, I don't want to offend Jesus on Easter.
Right. Let's ask you, Jesse, when do you think doorknobs first came into existence? This is a tough one.
Yeah, I don't know, like, can you get by without doorknobs? You have those, like, push doors.
Right, because you got to think about doors. Like, when do we start with doors?
Yeah.
What defines a door, and then at what point were we sort of locking them?
Maybe they didn't use doors for a long time. It was more like ropes or those like 70s beads.
Actually, I was reading about like animal hides.
There you
back
go.
in like I don't even know the time frame, but at one point in time they actually used like animal hides as doors.
Yeah. So I'll say this is post Jesus, around 1200 AD.
No, not exactly.
That's a lot of years where they had like castles, but I put no doors on them.
No, so they did have doors for a long. I didn't look up the history of this. Episode isn't on the door,
right?
So I didn't look up the history of doors. But doorknobs can kind of be tracked to the early 1800s.
Really?
Yes. And I'll tell you about before doorknobs in a moment. I want to start here at the top of my history section. Doorknobs have been used around the world for centuries and were first manufactured in the United States in the mid-19th century. This is from handsomehandles.co.uk, a supplier of door handles. Although it is difficult to provide an exact date of when doorknobs first came into use, the first documentation of the invention of a doorknob was 1878, when the U.S. Patent Office received a submission made for improvements on a door-closing device by an African-American inventor named Osborne, not kidding, Dorsey.
Really?
Yeah.
It was his destiny, I guess, right?
Yeah, there were a lot of doorknobs before his invention. I think maybe he was the first to patent one.
Sure.
In the U.S., anyway. The rest of my information here is mostly from encyclopedia.com. Before doorknobs and door handles were invented, people often just used locks with keys if they could afford to have a lock fitted. Alternatively, instead of locking a door, they would simply keep their valuables in boxes or chests that could be locked, and they would keep the key safe.
It's kind of like Minecraft. It's like people can just come in those doors, so you just got to lock your actual possessions away.
That's right. And I would traditionally hide my chest in the structure of my Minecraft creation.
Right, in the walls.
Right. That's actually not far off from, you talked about castle times. They would typically have, I read a little something about this. I chose to leave it out of the history. Maybe I shouldn't have, but like the wealthy, they would have somebody like in their ensemble that would be the holder of their keys. And that person would, secure them somewhere in their castle.
Ooh.
But yeah, you could just walk right into the castle.
That's interesting.
Assuming there wasn't like a drawbridge or a draw door.
A moat.
Yeah. Though spherical or ball-shaped doorknobs are considered the hardest to turn, this shape is still the most common. Egg-shaped doorknobs are said to be the easiest for most people to use. Let me ask you, Jesse, as someone who has a general difficulty in
with grip strength.
With grip strength and any sort of mechanical device. What do you find any difficulty in using doorknobs?
I'll say that I do think handles are probably easier, but I haven't been like, damn, I wish this was egg-shaped or anything like that.
I want to disagree. I don't think that egg-shaped... I think that those feel awkward in my hand. I prefer a round doorknob.
Yeah, I don't know... when was the last time I came across an egg-shaped doorknob?
Yeah. It's funny. I'm looking at the doorknob to my office right now, and it would fall into a round classification. I'm looking at the knob rows and the shank and such.
Of course.
And I realized I recognized the design from my research. I have a tulip designed spherical doorknob.
A lot of floral references in the world of doorknobs.
You're right. I wonder if there's a reason for that.
I actually have a sunflower handle.
Yeah. Actually, my front door is a poppy seed.
Oh, nice.
American doorknob designs and materials have changed throughout the years. In colonial times, the first door hardware was made out of wood and involved simple latches and strings. Round knobs first appeared around the time of independence. Decorative hardware, including knobs, emerged after the Centennial Exposition of 1876. Before this time, most door hardware was imported. 95% of door hardware imported in the year 1938. Glass knobs were rare until a faster and cheaper manufacturing method was developed based on pressing. Pressed glass knobs were popular from 1826 to 1850, followed by cut glass through 1910. Wooden knobs, introduced in the late 1800s, were phased out after 1910. Are you still awake?
Yeah, I'm thinking there's not a lot of glass knobs anymore.
No, not a lot of wood knobs either.
No, they were phased out.
China or ceramic knobs were mainly imported from France and England until the mid-1800s, when the U.S. patent was granted for making knobs out of potter's clay. I think I do see ceramic knobs in some older homes.
Yeah, I recall that in like old vacation homes and stuff.
If you recall from a previous episode, I just go into a lot of American
when
homes.
you're walking into homes randomly.
Right. From 1830 to 1873, there were over 100 U.S. patents granted for knobs. Collectors have cataloged over 1,000 antique doorknob designs into 15 types based on shape, material, and design pattern. Another your hobby.
Yeah, a weird one for sure.
Like when people think of like kind of dorky, quirky collections, you think like what, stamp collections?
Yeah, stamp collections,
coin collections. Doorknobs, that's a different one.
Yeah, I mean, it must be kind of fun because you do come into contact with them every day, so it's like you're an expert.
Right. And if you're listening to this episode, you already know more about doorknobs than the average person, which is kind of fun. The best grade of knobs during the period from 1830 to 1873 were usually made from cast bronze or brass. Now we need to talk a little bit about locks, and that's where we're going to wrap it up. Machine processes for steel locks were first introduced in 1896. Today, the most common type of privacy lock, Jesse, is the what lock?
The deadbolt.
The spring lock, which uses a simple round push button located on the center of the knob to control the bolt. It is easy to operate with a finger, closed fist, or elbow, evidently.
Not sure why you would, but you can.
It's like cheekbone
toe.
Or shin. Other locks have become more sophisticated and use some sort of electronic device, such as a programmable computer chip that identifies users. I suspect Jesse will later tell us about some of the more innovative.
The fact that like you cover the history and I come into the tech news, and it just sounds a little bit like you're like a grandpa. You're like, programmable tech computers can open the doors. Like, yeah.
Yes. I assume it's mostly grandfathers that listen to this show, so I'm just trying to, bring them through as though they don't know anything about technology.
Yeah.
So this is where we would traditionally take a break and play a little game. How does that sound?
All right, what do we got?
We've got another round of Fact or Fiction. This game happens to work well when we don't have a guest lined up. This time it's called Are You Dumber Than a Doorknob?
Oh, nice. I don't think so.
It's kind of like, are you smarter than a fifth grader? Are you dumber than a doorknob?
Yeah, that was the original pilot episode of that show.
I tried to look up the origin of that saying because people say dumber than a doorknob, deader than a doornail. I was like, what does that mean? Why,
Yeah.
I get it that you could be as dumb as like an inanimate object, but why are we hating on the doorknob? I like to say that it's dumber than any other inanimate object.
So when I was, researching deaths, we'll talk about that later, but I came across that phrase, dead as a doorknob, and I did a little bit of research. Dead as a doorknob is like a misuse of the original phrase, which is dead as a doornail.
Yes.
Doesn't make a whole lot more sense to me, but apparently doornails in the olden times would be bent when they were installed, and so they were basically unusable, whereas other nails could still be extracted and used again.
Okay.
So deader than a doornail.
Yeah, as far as I got in understanding the origin of dumber than a doorknob, I think it's just alliteration. Like, it was just kind of fun to say.
Right. And they're, at least until recently, they're not really smart objects. So
Right. All right, I have 10 statements here. Some are true, some are false. It's a game of fact or fiction. I'll give you a heads up. The final question is a multiple choice. I'm going to give you 2 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock, and let me get a piece of paper and a pen out here so we can tally your scores. Out of 10, I would say you have to get at least 6 in order to.
That's a passing grade.
In order to be smarter than a doorknob.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Putting 2 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock and starting now. Jesse, many church doors are painted blue, especially in the South. This is because blue symbolizes the heavens. Fact or fiction?
Fact.
That's incorrect. Jesse, many church doors are painted yellow, especially in Kentucky. This is because yellow symbolizes the eternal light. Fact or fiction?
Are there just 10 questions for like 10 different colors here?
2 minutes on the clock.
Fiction.
That is correct. Jesse, many church doors are painted red.
Oh, shut up.
Especially in Philadelphia. This is because of Passover and because red is a sign of sanctuary and safety.
True.
That is true. 2 points. Jesse, in ancient Rome, it was common to put an image of a penis over the front door for wealth, fertility, and well-being.
True?
That is true. Jesse, the band The Doors got their name from the town they originated in, Dorset, Vermont. True or false?
False. I don't think so.
That is correct. Jesse, the band The Doors got their name from a book by Aldous Huxley, The Doors of Perception.
True?
That is true. Jesse, doors in Ireland are painted colorful colors in an effort to help drunk family members find their way back to the right home.
True. Sorry, guys.
Oh, that was offensive. Jesse, doors in Ireland are painted colorful colors in an act of rebellion when the Irish were ordered to paint their doors black when Queen Victoria passed away.
True.
That is true. Jesse, in Italy, it's considered bad luck to have more than 2 entrances to a family's home.
That seems like a fire hazard. False.
That is correct. And final question. The small door built into some large cathedral doors is called a what? A wicket door, a pastor's door, or a mouse's door?
I can't imagine the pastor would fit through the small door. A wicket door.
That is correct. With 20 seconds left on the clock, Jesse earned himself 8 points.
Yeah. Smarter than a doorknob.
That's remarkable. You're certainly smarter than a doorknob.
Woo.
According to that test there.
Thanks.
All right. I got to catch my breath. I should have just done 10 different colors. And
I really thought it was going that way.
Interesting anecdote about the putting the image of a penis over the door.
Yeah, the penis doorway. That
I don't feel like that wouldn't fly as well nowadays.
No, that hasn't caught on here, I would say.
All right, back to the doorknob. It's time to talk about roundtable discussion. Why does the doorknob suck? What do you think, Jesse?
I feel like, I was thinking about this question. It's a little hard to have a strong opinion on the doorknob, but I do have some qualms with it. I don't like that there's really no uniformity between doorknobs. I don't know how exactly to fix that, but it's like my doorknob is different than my neighbor's, and at work they're different. And so it's like you have the incident of like, do I push this door? Do I pull it? How do I unlock it?
Right. I'm laughing because a friend of mine who listens to the show, I overheard him explaining the show to one of his friends. And he said, we talk about everyday items and we review them. And I thought, this isn't a review podcast. We're not reviewing doorknobs. But then I realized, well, I guess it is. It's just that we review everything negatively.
Yeah, that's true. And it's not a specific item.
We could say nice things about the doorknob, but that would be a really bad podcast.
They're shiny. I like that. No.
They generally open doors pretty well.
Yeah. I think we talked about the fact that they can be dirty and spread germs, so I dislike that. And then one I had is they can be difficult if you're carrying things. Just an hour ago, I got back with my groceries, and of course I'm doing the man thing where I've got 40 bags of groceries on my arms. It's hard to get your key in the door and do all that,
Right. I said a couple of complaints. My doorknobs, actually, they're frequently coming loose. Like, I have to tighten them up.
I don't know why that's a good sentence. My doorknobs are frequently coming loose.
They are. They have two Phillips head screws. I've got like a screwdriver right by the front door because I'm just constantly tightening doorknobs. I don't know if that's a fault with my knob roses or what, but
your technique maybe. Are you opening them like aggressively? I don't know.
Maybe I'm too yeah.
Again, it's been a while.
Opening my doors.
If I recall, you have very large hands, so that could cause a problem.
It could be. I said that the keys in them locks, they wear down, and then the key doesn't work well, and then you have to do like the jiggling thing.
Yep.
And I said opening the door is difficult with your hands full. I think that's my biggest complaint about the doorknob.
Yeah, I think so too.
So let's go back to you and learn about some of the technological advances in doorknobs.
Yes, sometimes it's really funny to do the research for these because, I go to Kickstarter. I gotta imagine I'm the only person who's gone to Kickstarter and typed in doorknob. Like I really want to fund some doorknob projects.
Some guy who's selling some crazy third party doorknob got a hit on his website today, and he's like,
I finally made it.
Somebody, the people are out there and they're Googling doorknobs.
The doors are opening. And so, I did that. I searched for it and it goes, we returned 3 results. And I get excited about that. So the first one we have is the knob to handle. Their opening remark in their video is, how many times have you opened a doorknob wishing you had the convenience of a handle? And I'm like, not that often, but I appreciate the sentiment.
If I'm being honest, no, I can't think of a time that's ever happened.
Yeah. So and they go on to further talk about the inconvenience. The problem gets compounded if you have lotion on your hands and a stiff knob in the bathroom. I honestly started to think it was a joke because of that line, but I think they were legit. They had a product, so this isn't a
knob is famously a euphemism.
Yeah, a British euphemism for a symbol you might put over your doorway.
In the bathroom. Right. All right. That sounds like a joke.
Yeah. But their actual device it basically looks like a door handle, and it attaches to a regular round knob. So they're kind of marketing it as, it makes a round knob easier to open. Handles are easier, good for people with arthritis, good for little kids. I think the idea being if you are renting and you, I guess, can't legally change the doorknob, but you really want a handle, this is a way around that. They only raised $200.
Is that a thing? Are people I don't think I've ever used a doorknob and had any thoughts about it at all.
Yeah, I don't think so either. they had 5 backers and raised $200. So
I guess if you had arthritis, then grip, a round doorknob does require you to grip it. So
right,
but that would be more difficult than just pushing down on a lever.
Yeah, I think you should still probably just switch it out for a handle, but I guess in some cases you can't. Moving on, the knob koozie somehow actually did worse, raised $73.
What, does it keep your door handles cold?
I always feel bad about these because I'm like, $73. Like, if I had a Kickstarter, I would throw in the first 100 myself to make it look like it was happening. This is an accessory that it's made of a silicone rubber, and it goes over the round doorknob. It's supposed to be an aesthetically pleasing accessory for all standard size doorknobs. I think it makes it easier to grip, and it's supposed to be a style thing. They were not successful.
Well, I see why they called it the door. What was it? The knob koozie?
Yeah, the knob koozie.
I see why they called it that, but the koozie serves a function, a temperature function,
right?
And it's just I have to deduct some points for the name there. That's
they didn't mention maintaining the temperature of the knob.
The knob wrap or something.
Yeah, I'll email them with that idea. Okay, number 3, Germ Be Gone is a doorknob sanitizer that mists the doorknob with disinfectant spray between uses.
Okay.
Not a terrible idea. We already talked about the fact that there are some materials that are antimicrobial by themselves. They also had no product sketches or prototypes. They just had a bad video, and they asked for $500,000. They raised
that's what my Kickstarter would be like.
Yeah, they raised $0 and have since canceled their Kickstarter. Yeah. So,
well, at least they never got their hopes up. They didn't get to 10,000.
I'm assuming he made the video and then got online and was like, doorknob antibacterial, and just saw 1 million results and just backed out.
He's like, oh, we could just make them out of copper.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. The final one here, a real product. We argued about this earlier. I don't know if it's Schlage or Schlage, the doorknob company. Do you have thoughts on that?
How it's pronounced?
Yeah, Schlage.
I would go with Schlage.
Okay.
It seems kind of German or Dutch? I don't know.
Yeah, all right. The Schlage Sense Smart Lock. A bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah, say that 5 times fast.
The Schlage Sense Smart Lock. Sold by Sean Connery, apparently. This is
short lock.
This is a smart lock, so you can get it either in the deadbolt option or as a door handle, and it's got a keypad. I know we had one at home growing up, a keypad entry, which is really nice, but it also has the Wi-Fi connectivity, the Bluetooth connectivity. They have a smartphone app, so you can lock and unlock your door from anywhere. This works with Alexa and Google Home, so I guess you can tell Alexa to lock your door or to unlock your door. It seems like a pretty cool feature. There's a couple companies out there that do this, but this one seemed like they had a lot of market share. So
cool. All right. So now we get into our own ideas. Any preference who goes first here, Jesse?
Why don't you go ahead?
All right. I think it's good that I go first here because I want to comment on that last doorknob you presented us with. I feel like that's what the doorknob should be. It's a smart doorknob. It has Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, connectivity. It has an app. It syncs to your Alexa. It syncs to your life. It's got keypad entry. It's hard to do better than that just for the doorknob. However, I think that the doorknob itself is not necessarily the best solution to opening doors.
So you think we're limiting ourselves by focusing on the doorknob?
Yes, I think we got this idea for a doorknob in the 1800s, and we've been running with it for a couple of centuries, and now I think it's time we go in a different direction. So I'm getting rid of doorknobs and door handles altogether.
Okay, I'm on board so far.
And this isn't going to be a trend with all my ideas, much like it was for last episode.
Yeah.
I'm just going to give you the name. We're calling this the More Door. The door that's more. I'm going to give you a hypothetical scenario, and one that you can probably relate to because you just had this experience. You're getting out of your car with your 40 grocery bags in hand, right?
Yep.
You approach the door, and typically what would you do? You'd be trying to reach into your pocket to get your keys. You would drop the eggs. You would then try to, with 100 pounds of groceries on your arm, try to get the key into the key slot, and it's just a mess. So the way that the More Door works is as you approach the door is going to know that you're approaching. It's going to know exactly who's approaching the door by scanning the is it the NFC chip that's in your cell phone?
Yeah.
And it's also going to have facial recognition. That's a security, a two-factor security measure, because if somebody were to steal your phone, for example, you would want them to be able to get into your house.
Right. Like 2 years ago, I would have said that's a crazy idea, but that's how most modern smartphones are unlocked. So I'm down with it.
Then, upon verbal command, the door will open swiftly. And you can customize the verbal command. This is just kind of a fun function. You could have open sesame, or you could have a password, or honey, I'm home, and the door opens. And it's going to be opening in the fashion of a pocket door. I like pocket doors where the door slides into the frame itself.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't think you see enough of them. And this can open either upward, downward, to the side, depending upon your needs. If you have a window above your door, it's not going to be able to go up. But the reason I like this is because another thing, I know this episode isn't about the door, but you get in the door with your groceries and you're trying to get your shoes off. The door is just something that's in the way, I feel. So the door's going to be open and out of the way completely, with your voice command. Once you've entered, it's going to know that you walk through, and the door is going to swiftly close behind you, so you don't lose too much heat or cold air. And that's pretty much the function of the door from somebody that's outside coming in. Where you get a lot more out of the More Door is from the inside of your house going out.
Oh,
your door is going to present you with an array of useful information via an LCD panel.
Oh, a heads-up display.
Yes. This information includes a digital peephole, weather information, the amount of gas that's left in your vehicle, traffic on your commute, a digital shopping list, and the list goes on. The ability to remotely give people access to your home. And with that, it's going to have all the benefits that come with those video doorbells. Speaking of which, the doorbell would be a good topic for an episode.
Oh, yeah, let's save that.
But those video doorbells give you, like a little home surveillance. You can see who's at your door when you're not home. It can send you a notification to your phone. You get the safety of that. You can see when your kids are getting home from school, etc. And that is, that's pretty much what I came up with. Getting rid of the doorknob, making a smart door.
I like it.
That's my idea. What do you have?
I mean, I agree, and not having to touch the doorknob again, a good feature. I have some similarities to your idea in that I kind of I want to steal a lot of the smart knob functionality. So, it's going to use your phone's GPS to know you're close, and then Bluetooth to make sure you're actually there, and all those features so that when you approach the door, it's ready to open. the change in my door, and I'm confused. I'm almost confused why this isn't a thing. Is that my door's gonna open like a garage door?
Okay.
Like I feel like we already, you pull up in your driveway, you can press a button in your car, and that door's already on its way open. And I feel like it's crazy to me that we don't have that same feature for the actual door itself. So you're going to have on your keychain, much like you have with, you can lock your car, you can open the garage, you're going to have a little button, and all you need to do is press that button, and your door is going to open like a garage door. Now, I was worried about like safety, but I mean, you could still throw it, just like with a garage door at home, if you need to. I think there's like an emergency pull to deactivate the springs and open up the door. Is that true? I think that's true.
So, deactivate the springs?
I think like you can't just like pull open a garage door, but if you're inside and like the springs break or the electronics break,
there's like an emergency pull cord and you can open the door manually.
I mean, I'm hoping that it's easy enough to do, and like in the event of a fire. But
okay.
That's the general idea, and I want something sort of like maybe just a card that you'd have in your wallet, or it can use NFC on your phone, and if you can't press the button as you approach the door, it does the same idea. It's going to open like a garage door. And I struggled to come up with a name for this. I wanted to call it "You're a Car Too," but but I don't think that's a very good name. So I'm still kind of working on that.
Let me think. Car,
right?
The car,
like
that's the people garage. I don't know.
Oh, that's what I call the home, the people garage. There you go.
All right. So that's it.
Yeah, I think that's my idea.
All right, I like it. It was similar in function to mine. You got rid of the doorknob as well, right?
Yeah, I guess like it might have one of those, again, like an emergency sort of doorknob, but I don't want to have to use that.
Sure. Okay. All right. Those are our ideas to improve or eliminate the doorknob. Is this show just about eliminating the need for everyday items?
It's simultaneously about shoving as much technology into them as you can, and then also getting rid of them.
Right. I want to take a look at some feedback. We actually got an email from there's not a name here. It's just Cool Meme Bean. To our feedback at thatjustmightworkpodcast.com, who says, "Hey there, I've listened to every episode of your podcast so far, and I love it. You guys are hilarious, blah, blah, blah. I have some ideas that I've come up with. They say the glasses. I wear them pretty much every day, and I hate them. They're uncomfortable. You can't swim with them, etc. They say tape.
That's right up our alley.
Yeah. Tape would be, I think glasses there's definitely potential for an episode on the glasses.
Yeah.
I don't wear glasses, so I can't really relate to them that much, but that might make it all the funnier for people that do wear glasses.
Yep.
Tape, on the other hand, I don't know. He says, he or she says, it sticks to things that you don't want it to stick to, and it's bad for the environment.
We'd have to look into that. I don't use a whole lot of tape.
No. And the backpack. I thought that was the best of three ideas offered. This listener is a high school student. Notes that they're uncomfortable. There are some with back support. But yeah, I think a lot of students nowadays are carrying around like 85 pounds of textbooks on their back, leading to like scoliosis and such. It's probably a good one for us to touch upon at some point.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of innovation out there, so I'd be interested to see what we come up with.
Sure. All right, so thanks for the ideas. We do encourage your ideas for episodes, your complaints, comments to feedback at thatjustmightworkpodcast.com, and it's time to play Has Someone Died Using It? It's my turn to take a guess. Jesse, you've done the research, I presume?
Yes, and
okay.
Like I said, when I first started Googling this, first thing that came up was the phrase "dead as a doorknob," and then I got a lot of like suicide. I guess doorknobs. Some people hang themselves from, so I got a lot of like suicide prevention stuff. I don't want to say anything else that could give away, a real answer. So I think it's time for your guess. Has someone died using it, and how did it happen?
All right. So I just checked. I believe the score is still 4 to 3.5. I don't think you earned any points on the hand dryer episode.
No.
And that's me in the lead, right?
Yes.
I think so. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so I thought about this. I thought of I tried to, in bullet points, write down different ways that people could accidentally kill themselves with a doorknob. I wrote, someone could trip and smack their head on a doorknob and die. Right?
Yeah, plausible.
Would it be fair to say that the doorknob caused the death in that instance?
Yeah, that's blunt force trauma by doorknob.
Okay. I said somebody could cut their hand on a rusty doorknob and die of lockjaw.
Oh, there you go.
But I don't think that works out with the timeline of the doorknob. So I'm gonna scratch that. And then I thought somebody could be electrocuted by a doorknob. I think that's like a scene from what's that scene from Home Alone? Does he heat the doorknob up, or does he hook electricity up to it?
I think he might heat it, like with a blowtorch.
Yeah. But I thought if there's some short circuiting, loose hanging wires, I don't know, if the house isn't grounded properly, maybe somebody could be electrocuted by a doorknob. Maybe that's a metal contact point. That my mind is running now that you said people can hang themselves by a doorknob. I can't figure out the logistics of that, but
yeah, I'll admit I couldn't really either. But I read a couple of descriptions. It's doable.
Okay. So do I want to say yes or do I want to say no and take a shot at the full point? I'm going to go... Sorry. I'm going to go yes, hoping I get at least a half a point. I think that we have so much interaction with doorknobs, even though they've only been around since the 1800s, that somebody has to have killed themselves accidentally using one. Like I said, I'm not going rusty doorknob. I'm going to go with... It feels like electrocution is always the answer.
There have been a lot of electrocution deaths.
Yeah, but like the logistics of electricity getting to the doorknob seems difficult to me. So I'm going to go somebody tripped and hit their head on a doorknob and died. Maybe they slipped on their front steps, hit their head on their doorknob.
It was icy out. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That's my final guess.
All right. Well, I will award you half a point.
All right.
So before I get to the real truth here, I found a couple interesting things. One, we talked about bacteria a lot, and researchers have tested this. They applied sort of like a mock bacteria or some sort of safe bacteria to a doorknob in an office, and within 2 to 4 hours, the virus had been picked up by 40 to 60% of the workers in that office. And, stuff like norovirus or the stomach flu is one example where that could happen. And, that's a disease that kills 800 people a year. Now, that said, no one's tracked that down to a doorknob and said, like, oh, this is where it came from. So we're not going to fault the doorknob for any of those deaths. Fortunately for you and unfortunately for humanity, this takes a sad turn. We have a 5-year-old child from Scarborough, United Kingdom.
I have no idea what direction this is heading.
He was running into an apartment courtyard when he caught his hood on the inside entrance doorknob as it swung shut behind him. The door swung shut, twisted his hoodie, and it effectively strangled him before anyone could find that he was missing. So, kind of a dark story. But, half a point, you were right. And, this one was accidental, but people can, hang themselves via doorknob.
Huh.
You don't know whether to be happy or sad.
No, I'm happy I got the half a point. I'm noticing it seems like there's a little bit of a trend with child death on our podcast. Unfortunately, that's not intended.
Well, I know, like, parents of toddlers will say, it's basically you've got like tiny drunk humans who are doing everything they can to try and kill themselves or try and hurt themselves. So,
jeez,
it happens.
No, I guess, yeah. That thought hadn't even crossed my mind.
Yep.
But all right, I guess, yeah. If you have a toddler at home, be mindful of them running out the front door.
It's like, what are you gonna say? Like, remove your doorknobs? I don't know.
Hey, that's another reason that doorknobs are a nuisance. They're they're a risk to toddlers.
Right. I will admit, I think like way more people are killed by garage door springs every year. But that's all right.
That's true. It's interesting you decided to implement the technology that more often kills people.
Well, I just, 20 years from now, I want a leg up when we have that question.
Okay. All right. That is today's episode of That Just Might Work on the Doorknob. Don't forget, again, to give us your feedback to feedback@thatjustmightworkpodcast.com. Please follow us on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. It's @thatjustmightwork, on Twitter @TJMW Podcast. And hey, join us next week. You never know, we might be talking about your favorite everyday item.
Happy Easter.